Hi, today we are going to discuss of how do we put our dogs on diet. So in UK, the perception or the sort of perception of what a normal body condition score is for a dog is a little bit skewed. So there's a survey that shows 70% of dogs in UK, they are overweight. Okay, so that is quite a high percentage because what we perceive as what is so-called a normal shape. Most people, most sort of dog owners, they think that a normal shape it is to make it a little bit heavier, so to speak. So with all the best intention in mind, the dogs are always or usually a little bit on the heavy side. So a common question that I've been asked is, what's the best way of dieting my dog? Do I change the food? Do I take the dog on exercise and all these sort of things? So very simply, I'm going to talk about sort of two different things that that would have factors to that. One is I'm going to introduce to you the concept of a input and output. So basically what we understand is that what you feed the dog, that is considered as input because you're inputting energy. You're giving some form of energy into the animal. And output is whatever the dog uses. So you take the dog for a walk, how much it exercises and things like that. Okay, so that's the output. Okay, so we must always ask, if the input is more than the output, your dog puts on weight. If the input is the same as the output, your dog maintains his weight. If your input is less than the output, then the dogs get skinnier. Yep. So if you think of things like this, that would make things a little bit easier. So what is input? So input is fundamentally in this context defined as anything that goes into the mouth. So we're talking about the normal dog food, any treats you put inside the mouth, any sort of tidbits that you give, maybe in the evening, you give a toast or whatever. So some owners give all sorts of different things. Anything that goes into the mouth, okay, is considered input. So an output is whatever the dog uses in terms of walking around, going for walks and things like that they use to burn it. Okay, so the input is not only the food, it's literally anything that goes into the mouth. And this comes to play then this is important when we talk about how do we diet the dog. Second bit of things is that it's not what sort of food you give, it's how much you give. Okay, so I've got two different tips for that. One is pretty simple already. One is to weigh the food and weigh the dog. What I mean by that is that if you weigh the dog, say it's at 30 kilos, okay, and the body condition is maybe 7 out of 9, 5 being ideal, so you're going to take it down a little bit from 30 kilos to a little bit less, okay? So you weigh the dog on week 1, then you weigh the food, okay? After 2 weeks, okay, weigh the dog again. If the weight is still the same at 30 kilos, or God forbid even higher for whatever reason, then what we know is that whatever we are doing in the past 2 weeks, food-wise, input-wise, is too much. Okay, so we know exactly how much food we are giving because we have weighed the food. So we're talking about, let's say if I were to say, okay, if it's the weight has gone up, reduce the food by 10%. So you can actually do that because, example, if you weigh the food out to be 50 grams, you can reduce 10%, which is 45 grams. Then you can do that again for the next 2 weeks and weigh a little doggy here after 2 weeks time to see whether you have achieved what you achieved with a reduction of diet, to see that whether you get the weight that you want and the reduction of weight. Okay, and you can only improve what you measure. Okay, we can only improve what we measure. So that is why it's so important to weigh the food. Okay, so a lot of people say they just 1 handful or 2 handful or anything like that. So if you don't weigh the food, it's very difficult to gauge what a handful is. And if I were to say that, say reduced by 10%, what does that mean? Do you use one less finger? So that is tricky. So that's why a simpler way to do it is just to weigh the food literally. So once you weigh the food, then you can actually gauge how much food you have to reduce if you're not attaining the results that you want in 2 weeks' time. So with that in mind, remember the input is whatever goes into the mouth. So not only you got to weigh the food, you got to see what else goes into the mouth as well, and that may need to be reduced. Maybe the number of treats, maybe the number of bacon sandwich, maybe the number of Sunday rolls, maybe the number of a anything that goes into the mouth really, just to make sure that you're actually reducing the entire calorie to achieve the results that you want in 2 weeks' time. A simple tip that I give pet owners is that you can actually calculate what the daily food intake for this particular pet, for your particular pet is. Take some out and use those as treats. Why are we giving something different for treats? Who's to say that the treats can't be the same thing? Just give it a different timing in terms of for training. If you go to parks and things like that for recall, some people they use treats for recall, some people they use treats for training. You can still use the food, it's just given a different timing. If your dog really likes the food, what's the difference? So this allows you to be able to control exactly how much food, or know how much food your dog is having, because you've calculated that out for the daily intake already. And it allows much less confusion compared to I measure the food by giving a bit of treats. I'm not getting the results that I want. Do I reduce the food or reduce the treats? So this just stops all that already if you just use one form of food. But that's just my little tip. So with this in mind, measure the food, measure the dog, okay? Weigh the food, weigh the dog, then you can actually try to find what the balance is. And once you get to your ideal body condition of 5 out of 9, whereby you can not see the ribs, but you can feel the ribs, okay? Then that weight is probably the best weight that you want to be in. Then you know exactly how much food you've got to attain that, and just continue from there. I hope you found this useful. Comment below any other dieting tips you have for your dogs. I hope to see you in the next live event. This is Amity.